Hey everybody, welcome back to the Curlin Community Connection. It's Mayoral Monday and we have number 4 of 5 mayoral candidates. It's my pleasure to welcome Virginia Korte to the program. She is a native of Arizona who has been contributing to the community for decades. In 1996, Virginia was named to the board of directors of the Scottsdale Area Chamber of Commerce. In 2002, she was hired as the president and CEO. In 2008, she left to take on another challenge as the president and CEO of Scottsdale Training and Rehabilitation Services, also known as STARS. STARS is Scottsdale's premier provider of programs and work opportunities for individuals with developmental disabilities. Now, she served as president and CEO through 2014. Virginia began serving her first term on the Scottsdale City Council on January 8th of 2013. She was reelected to her second term in 2016. She's got tons of community honors. They include the Preserve Pioneer Award of 2019, the Scottsdale History Hall of Fame inductee in 2006, Business Volunteer Legacy Award, Scottsdale Area Chamber of Commerce 2010, blah, blah, blah. Oh my goodness. All right. We'd take up too much time if we went all through it. Let me just say that we have a community servant here running for mayor. Her name is Virginia Korte. Welcome, Ms. Korte.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Curlin.
No, you call me Eric. You call me Eric. So here are the rules, Virginia. I'm going to call you Virginia. Here are the rules. Thank you. We have a bunch of questions that I try to ask each of the candidates. It does go a little bit differently because this is a conversation, and sometimes we go in all different kinds of directions, but we do this as a community service because we believe that people should be voting in an informed manner. So this is not you endorsing my candidacy for the State House of Representatives. I'm not endorsing your candidacy for mayor. We're just going to have a good old time, and as always, there is no crying when the question comes out, okay?
No crying and zooming. Got it.
No crying and zooming. Now, if the folks at home on the Facebook feed want to ask you a question, they'll write it into the comment bar. My wonderful assistant, Andy Gomez, will get it here into the Zoom, and by the magic of telecommunications, we will do our best to get it answered. Are you ready to go?
We're ready.
All right, fantastic. Hey, so first of all, what makes you the most qualified person to be mayor?
Andy, I think I bring decades of experience.
That's Eric.
Excuse me. Yeah, Eric, I bring decades of experience and engagement in our community. I am the only candidate that really has been involved in this community for 30 years, from nonprofit boards and working with the chamber, working at the chamber, and STARS. And also, I think my work with the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve is really important in this aspect. Our preserve is the icon of Scottsdale. McDowell-Sonoran Preserve, it's 30,600 acres. I was the chair of the very original task force that created the whole concept of that preserve back in 1994. And then, of course, worked on every political action committee campaign to get the tax increases passed, to expanding the boundary and be able to use GO bonds, all of that stuff that has made that miracle, I call it a miracle, the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve happen.
Well, would you say that the Sonoran Preserve then is Scottsdale's greatest strength, or one of them? What would you consider, I mean, if you had to kind of put it up there, what would the greatest strength of Scottsdale's community be?
You know, that's a good question. You know, the greatest strength of Scottsdale is its people. Certainly the preserve is a reflection of that and the commitment and the passion of our people. But it's also our industries and our small businesses. Our tourism industry is 35% of our economic base. That's an important component. So are small businesses. So is our healthcare industry. So is SkySong. So it's that diversity that makes Scottsdale a very special place.
Thank you. And picking up on that 35% tourism, this ties into every conversation we have. But we do have, do you think that we need to diversify our local economy a little bit more, or do you think we're good with the balance we have?
We need to diversify. So we saw back in the Great Recession in 2008 and 2008 and 2010, we saw that Scottsdale was impacted by that Great Recession more than any other community in the Valley. And that's because of our reliance on tourism. And tourism is always the first industry to be impacted. We are reliving that impact today with the pandemic. Too many companies have been setting up shop and going to places like Mesa and Gilbert and Chandler. Google, AT&T, Fujifilms, these tech companies with high-paying jobs, well-paying jobs, are going elsewhere. And we deserve some of that, and we should be out attracting those types of companies, because our citizens deserve those well-paying jobs, and they deserve to be able to work and live and fulfill dreams in one community in Scottsdale.
That is fantastic. I'm a little bit concerned about the tourism the way it is right now, because it seems like when the economy started to open up, our old town kind of started just flooding the doors open, and I think we kind of got a little bit of a black eye. But you wrote something, and actually Mark Greenberg makes a comment about a great opinion piece in the Scottsdale Independent concerning mask wearing, and I do want to get to that, because this again all ties in. For me, a leader leads, and when you are leading, you don't have time to look behind you to see who's supporting you. You make that decision to do what's right, and you do what's right by the community. And I really feel that your post, your opinion piece, was right on the money. And I think the important part was how you spoke about, even if masks don't bring down the spread of a virus or don't prevent, so you're left with something that might scratch your face or make you a little bit uncomfortable. But at the very worst, you are saving lives at this point. I want you to take that a step further and how that really impacts our tourism industry when our numbers are going sky high and the pictures of people standing shoulder to shoulder without masks. How does that actually do for business?
So people are not going to exit out of their homes. They're not going to venture out into the community unless they feel safe. And masks do that. It has been proven scientifically, and there are many, many articles scientifically, that masks can reduce the rate of infection, or the probability of infection, by 80%. And I'll take that 80% all day long if that's going to reduce the probability of me contracting the virus. People need to feel safe, and masks are going to do that. And why that's important is because that's how we're going to that's how we will jumpstart our economy. And that's number one critical point right now, is getting our economy going again.
Yeah, and there are so many pieces to the mask wearing. So to take your analogy a little bit further, there are so many pluses to come out of wearing a mask. And I don't really see any negatives other than some personal feelings that might get hurt, that they think their liberty is being infringed upon. We have had just recently another one of your council members, I'll say his name because he's going to come on the program next Tuesday, the 30th. Guy Phillips is very open and outward in the fact that he does not believe that wearing masks is something we should be doing. We should respond to this as personal liberty, perhaps educating a few more people. People will do the right thing. But even if he believes that, he's doing the wrong thing by posting the fact that he wants to have this event. Tell me, Ms. Korte, if you will, what can did Scottsdale do it right? Do you support Mayor Lane's, because he came out before the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. Do you support Mayor Lane and how he took this on?
100%. 100%.
I'm happy with that.
There's some of us that have been quietly, shall we say, pushing our governor to open up this proclamation and allow cities to make their own decisions on this. And I think the governor made the right decision to do that. And as we've seen, cities across the state have adopted a mask proclamation, right? An executive order. I think that's really important. And I'm going to go back to the fact that if we want our economy to start moving forward, and we want people to enter the environment again and get out of their homes, they've got to feel safe.
Yeah, and so here's the funny thing, because it's become a political football. I'm really happy that Scottsdale elections and lots of the municipal elections are nonpartisan. We know you're registered some way, I'm registered some way, but if we wanted to run for like city council, we don't have to put a letter after our name. Even though the guy I'm running against in the state legislature wanted to actually make that go away so that we can understand, I think his words were, see where the wolves in sheep clothing are. But be that as it may, we in Scottsdale don't have 50% of any one political party. So if we were just talking about the local economy and we say, oh, Democrats will wear masks, Republicans don't wear masks, even if we said that, we are talking about 30% of the people not shopping, 30% of the people not dining out. And then you figure in the independents who lean Democrat as well, you're almost at 50%. I mean, that's just, it's economic suicide.
Eric, and since I've put out this op-ed in the paper and then also an email blast, as you can imagine, I've gotten a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
It's not necessarily positive.
What is this split on that?
The split is about 70-30. 70 go for the mass, I support you. 30% say, you know, you're wrong. I'll never wear a mask. And some of the responses I cannot say online.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
which is unfortunate. You know, it's we're all, you know, we all everyone has the right to their own opinion, but everyone doesn't have the right to be rude and disrespectful.
Yeah. They also, according to Daniel Moynihan, they don't have the right to their own facts. And that's where
Yes.
That's where you and I agree. I mean, I think in our society, we have the data, we have the science. That isn't our enemy. That should be the glue that binds us together when we start making decisions. So we have some questions coming in. I'm going to go to it, okay?
You bet.
All right. Faith wants to know what Scottsdale can do to provide more affordable housing, much like the Tempe community has done with tiny houses, or what do you see on that front?
I see an important issue that Scottsdale has avoided for years to talk about. And I think that's going to require a community conversation. Affordable housing is a very complicated process, a complicated issue. And in Scottsdale, we are very fortunate to have higher property values than any other community in the valley. And because of that, it creates obstacles for affordable housing. So it's time to have that community conversation. What is important to our citizens? Where are the priorities? And take a look at what it's going to take and see if our community really wants to go there.
Well, let's take that with the high property values. One of the reasons we have high property values in Scottsdale is we have a bunch of school districts that have quality, real quality public schools. And the start of a community, I firmly believe, as a teacher for a long time, is the education of our youth. I think it's the center of our community. Jennifer McDowell points out that you've been an advocate voice for the importance of well-funded and strong education system in Scottsdale for a long time. How would you, as mayor, further the relationship and partnership between our great schools and the city?
Well, first of all, let me just explain that I've chaired or co-chaired the Yes to Children campaigns. I've chaired 4 of them, and they've all been successful. Schools are the very foundation of our communities. Without good schools, we don't have community. So as mayor, I would reinstitute a conversation between the school boards and the city council. You know, so we have 3 districts that overlap Scottsdale. It's not only Scottsdale Unified School District, it's Paradise Valley Unified School District, and it's Cave Creek. So we need to have conversations with everyone to talk about how we share assets, how we create programs that are great for our students and for our community. For example, I brought together the superintendent with our city manager on the property at 68th Street in Oak, the old Tonalea site. And now the city is going to be putting in some soccer fields. The school is going to upgrade the building there to create a little community center. And now we have a real community amenity that has laid fallow for what, 8 years? And it took a conversation, and it took a willingness to partner. That's the kind of stuff that we need to be doing.
Fantastic. We're talking here with mayoral candidate Virginia Korte. If you have questions you'd like answered, type it into the bar there in the Facebook comments. Andy, if she feels it's sufficient, we'll put it into the Zoom chat. And then if I feel that it's a good question, I'll ask it. By the magic of telecommunications, we'll get it answered. Following up, Mike Norton. I've heard this question before. He wants to know if the city can do anything to assist our schools during the COVID-19 response as we reopen.
Well, again, I think that's going to require some conversations. I think the schools are trying to figure out where they're going to come in on this. Are they going to require masks? I know ASU has already stipulated that they're going to require masks on campus. That doesn't quite work for a first grader. So how are they going to do this? Is it going to be distancing? Is it going to be a choice between remote teaching and on-site teaching? So how can the city help with that? I think, again, it's sharing resources, it's having conversations, and understanding that those schools are important to our economy and important to our community.
We have Dana, who, this is just a little bit of a compliment. She says, thank you for your continued support of our public schools and for understanding their role in the strength and success of our city. That's nice.
Thank you.
So I've got another question. I got a few questions, okay? You and I, we met for coffee. I've actually met with a few of the mayoral candidates because I am running for the state house. And some things came out of that conversation. One, I talked to you briefly about my idea for community schools. And I think in our low income areas, because we do have them in Scottsdale, starting education much earlier with high quality childcare, bringing in healthcare, bringing in food security, parenting classes in the evening, we can really make a hub. Do you see the city partnering with me in that effort to put a community school down in the southern part of our district?
Yes, I think it's
Thank you.
I think that's a great idea. We've our community has talked about systemic discrimination, unintentional bias, however you want to describe that or term it. But education is one of those areas that we see systemic discrimination. And in our low income areas where they don't have meals on the weekends, they don't have the computers, the technology to keep them up to date and with their schoolwork, things of that nature. In transportation, all of that is unintentional bias. We need to do a better job.
Yeah, and I appreciate one of the other comments or columns you wrote in the Scottsdale Independent was right on the mark about how we cannot say that racism doesn't exist. It doesn't go away. We put our head in the sand. And this was after the horrible murder of that young man in Minnesota, and then all the Black Lives Matter protests. To say it's not a problem is to just continue the problem. So I appreciate you leading on that as well. Doesn't mean that we have to all agree, but it means we have to have a conversation. Another thing that happens at the legislative level is that, we have great communities, right? We have property values that are higher than around our surrounding areas. But one of the problems is in 2016 that the legislature took away local control where it came to vacation rentals. And they're slowly kind of putting it back in. If I'm elected, I think we should just take that 2016 law off the books because I think Scottsdale and Safford, Tucson and Tolleson, very different areas, and we elect people to oversee that in our local area. What do you think we can do? What's your feeling about vacation rentals right now? Let's say you had carte blanche. What would you like to see happen?
Well, I think
when I say vacation rentals, a lot of people will say Airbnb, right? This is what we're talking.
I'm with you. So, there are good players and there are bad players. And I don't want to lump the good players because I think Airbnbs or VRBOs, they are good for our tourism industry and good for our economy. However, it's the bad players that advertise, you know, a house that'll sleep 16 and there's just a bunch of mattresses in the bedrooms and it's a party house. I've had one in my neighborhood, so I know exactly what other neighbors are experiencing, and they can destroy neighborhoods. So what do we do about it? Well, first of all, I think Airbnb is starting to control that. And so perhaps we start looking to the industry to make those controls, to make the criteria to manage better those homes that are right in the middle of our communities. I also think that we should mandate that there should be distancing between these short-term rentals. That you just can't have 4 or 5 of them in one neighborhood. That there has to be a significant distancing between them. I think between those two, we can solve some of the problems, and not be and not destroy the industry.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why there should be local control. You know your area. You've been elected to represent this area more so than a guy from, you know, Tucson. And quite frankly, you have the voice, the pulse of the residents.
So, you know, Eric, it's really only a few communities that are experiencing the problem, and they're the high tourism. So Sedona is just being slammed with them.
Right.
Scottsdale, some parts of Tucson. Tempe, not so much. Phoenix is too big. Gilbert, they don't care. You know, so if we're going to have some significant change in these bills, more cities need to support this.
Okay. Hey, Virginia, I plan on going to the big house over there in the Copper Dome, and I plan on representing Scottsdale and Fountain Hills. What would you, and if you are in the position of mayor, how do you see the two of us working together, or me working with you as part of the legislature? What do you need?
Well, first of all, I look forward to working with you, Eric. I think we see eye to eye on many of the issues, whether it's education or it's LGBTQ equality, right? So I think number one, we need to realize, or the legislature continues to take control away from the cities in many ways. And I think we need to bring that back to local control, just as you talked about. I also believe that that we should talk about the state, the tax revenue, and how the state, shall we say, divvies that up into other, you know, and then parcels it out, because it's really not fair. It's really not fair at all. So those are two of the things besides a statewide non-discrimination ordinance.
Yeah, that's right. So I want to ask you that. I've got a great question from Andrea Alley, but I promised once that Supreme Court decision came out that I would ask the question. So Scottsdale has a long history. 2 different times, 10 years apart, the Human Rights Commission of Scottsdale unanimously recommended that an ordinance be put in of anti-discrimination here in the city of Scottsdale. I don't know what we'll be able to get through the state, but if you're elected mayor, are you supportive of an anti-discrimination law that extends for LGBTQ with housing and restaurants?
Yes. So I think it's important for our viewers to know that, first of all, let's celebrate the Supreme Court decision that puts equality back into the workplace for the LGBTQ. I mean, that's a huge ruling, but it does not reach to the equality in housing or equality in public accommodations. So there's still work to be done.
Yes.
I believe that if we get the right counsel we've got an opportunity for some new blood on this council, that we can get a non-discrimination ordinance passed.
So help me out, though. There was a vote on this.
Yes.
Previously.
So back in 2015. 2015, I worked on bringing that forward and got incredible support from our community. And that included the chamber, that included Nationwide and Honor Health and Scottsdale Association of Realtors and Experience Scottsdale. And we all came together to say, this is what we need to do to support not only our community and the people that live here, but the people that visit here, to make sure that they feel safe, and also to maintain and keep the talent, the workforce that we need here in Scottsdale, and also to attract the types of conventions and tourism opportunities. So it was all good until there was only two of us that supported it. And that was Linda Milhaven and myself that supported that non-discrimination ordinance.
Okay, you and Linda Milhaven. So I'll have to go back and see which five didn't support it. I don't know if I can.
We don't have time right now to name those.
Okay. Hey, a couple of questions that go together. I'm going to read Andrea Alley's along with Susie Fisher's, Susie Johnson. So kind of take these together. Andrea says there's a lot of talk of thoughtful and citizen-friendly development in our community. It appears that there are many definitions of those terms. How do you define them, and what do you see as the best path forward for as our city grows? And then Susie's, to kind of piggyback on that, she wants your thoughts on the height restrictions. So I think those kind of go together.
Well, let's talk about Scottsdale as a whole and how we are going to continue to adapt and grow our economy and meet the needs of the next generation. We are landlocked, and there is about 2% of our land that is yet to be developed, and that's primarily around the 101 between Scottsdale and Hayden Road. There are specific areas, and the Scottsdale leaders have been working on this since the 80s. And there are certain areas that make sense for some height and density. And one is a small part of our old town. One is along the 101 between Scottsdale and Hayden, and the other is Skysaw. Those areas make sense for some height and density. Now, if we take Old Town alone, the council back in 2018 unanimously passed a character area plan update for Old Town. And in that update, everyone can go to it. It's on the city's website. It illustrates the areas that are that height and density are allowed to be given the developer, given what the developer wants to give to the city, such as extra parking or open space. But that really is about 5% of Old Town. The rest of it is basically going to remain low level. And I think that's where people are misunderstanding or misinformed, unfortunately. We need to consider height and density if we're going to continue to adapt and grow. If we don't, then we decline. And Eric, there's a lot of ghost towns around this state that have failed to adapt and grow, and we see them everywhere.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Let me ask you this, because I don't think I've said it yet. Where's your website in case some people want to get some more information about you or ask you more questions because we haven't covered them?
So it is KorteScottsdale.com. Okay. Real easy. It's a good website, easy to manage, some good information. And also, if they want to email me, it's Korte@KorteScottsdale.com.
Korte Scottsdale. Those are the two words we put together right there. Those are the important ones. And it's really a coincidence, because I remember there was like a Chevrolet dealer at one time with the same last name. That's crazy. Am I right?
That what a gift I had to be able to work with my dad for so many years.
Yeah.
And I was there 20 years, and that's where I cut my teeth in business, and really learned how what budgets were all about, and what it means to operate a dealership and be responsible for over 200 employees and their families and thousands of customers. It was a great learning experience for me.
Okay, I know I said I wasn't going to ask any more questions, but there's a real quick one from Amy, and she's a city employee, so I'm going to ask it. Would you ever consider a historic downtown district in downtown Scottsdale, Old Town?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah. That's why I asked that. It's a good one.
That is a conversation. Of course, our historic old town, which is east of Scottsdale Road between Indian School and Second Avenue, Scottsdale to the Civic Center, basically Brown. That's historic old town, and I know a lot of the property owners and business owners there are very proud of that area. If they want to go for that, it's really up to them to move that forward.
Okay. Now, I had asked you about some of your favorite things because we like to play a game here at the end. We like to bring out the person and the personality. I noticed your Facebook page. You said you like dogs, but I noticed your Facebook picture too. You have two wonderful little pooches. So I am going to ask you about dog idioms, all right? And we're going to see how well you and I work together. And I'll ask you to wait a couple of seconds before answering because the kids at home, they like to play along in the whole Facebook feed. They stay here to the end just for this particular part. It's amazing. And while I have their attention, tomorrow we have Zach Lindsay, who's a school board candidate, going at 5 o'clock again. And then Wednesday we have Rose Smith going as a school board candidate at 5 o'clock, get informed about local politics. Thursday we're taking off because I'm going to attend the rally with the Fountain Hills children and students there that were shouted down already once. I'm going to go support them. I hope everybody else does. And then Friday, we're going to have a special guest. So with that, dog idioms. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. If I go to a restaurant and I don't finish my meal, I put the rest of the food in this.
Doggy bag.
There you go. We're 1 for 1. We're going great. Okay.
Okay. We're ready
All
now.
right.
That was a warm-up, right?
All right, here we go. If I was throwing up all night, in the morning, I'd just be
lethargic. Dog tired.
Oh, that's good. I might accept that, but I'm as sick as a dog.
Sick as a dog.
But here's the point. Here's the next idiom. If I was drinking tequila the night before and I woke up and had a little bit of tequila the next day, I'd be doing what?
It's called hair of the dog.
Thank you very much. We're back on. Okay.
Not that I've ever used that.
No, I didn't say you. I said me. I prefer Scotch single malt. And I don't get to the point where I get sick. I used to when I was a child. I've grown. Okay. Before my campaign manager gets mad at me, let's go to the next one. We don't have much of this in Arizona, but during the monsoon season, if we get more than wind, it might be doing this. Really coming down.
Monsoon. Well,
remember, it's dog idioms. Dog will be in there.
Oh.
There's another little animal that I don't like that people have a little litter box and everything. It's coming down. It's raining cats and
dogs. Cats and dogs. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, one of the guys I'm running against, it doesn't seem like he changes ever. He never changes. It's the same old tired policies, the same old tired things. If I was to say to him, I just can't teach.
An old dog, new tricks.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's also say then, here's another one. I got a couple more. This is a really bad thing. So my wife is upset with me. And rather than me going at it, I just say, let
dead dogs lie?
Very close. Sleeping dogs. I don't say dead dogs around my wife. She loves dogs.
Okay.
Okay, this is my last one because this happens to me. Sometimes I walk when I golf, rarely. But I was in Scotland. I walked a lot of golf. And I took off those shoes and boy, they...
Dog tired, paws,
My dogs were barking.
Dogs were barking. That's right.
All right, that was fantastic. Hey, you said you enjoy sushi. Where are you and I going to go to sushi if we ever eat sushi?
Sakana.
Okay, I'll take you then over to Sushi Sen right down the road.
Okay. Okay.
Indian
back
Bend
at
and
you.
Scottsdale Road. That's the best. Okay. Thank you very much, Virginia Korte. It's Korte Scottsdale, KorteScottsdale.com.
Yes.
Go check it out. Ask her your questions, get the information you need, and vote when it comes time, August 4th.
Thank you, Eric. You're the
My
best.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Good luck to you on your run.